half the bill, half the design. This happened a number of years ago. I worked at a small architecture firm as a designer. We specialized in high-end homes for incredibly wealthy people, the kind of wealth where they know that they can easily screw you over without consequences, just because they can. We were working on this one project where it was a custom-designed home. Previous house on site had been demolished based on securing a permit with some very preliminary design drawings for the new place. Nothing you could use to build. This client stopped paying his bills. We were assured we were getting paid, promised the sun and the moon, and were told to keep working and finish the set. Architectural drawing set gets finished, but not issued due to the above outstanding build hours. So the client calls in a huff, spitting mad, Friday of an upcoming long weekend, demanding the drawings. He is informed that we can't release the drawings with the architect's stamp on them until we are paid. He is furious, says we are only getting half what he already paid for, and threatens to sue us for every reason in the book. Architect says, sure, we can do half, and hangs up. So we cut off half of every drawing using big white boxes, so the left half of the finished drawing on every sheet is complete. However, the right half of the sheet is completely white. This of course also blocks off the title block where a lot of the architectural data and the stamp should be. We issue the flattened PDF and go home for the weekend, taking a half day. Would not you know it, this client had done the private sale of the property based on OUR renderings and initial design concepts and promised a complete set of architectural drawings to the buyer. The house was supposed to close that Friday. We were shielded by our boss from the blowback, so I don't actually know what all happened, but yay, pay your architect. Update for everyone speculating as to the client. This was an independently wealthy individual who was not very well known. The tactics used by famous people definitely inspire the less famous people in their income bracket. There should be a website where business can post reviews of clients so businesses could look up potential clients to see if they've screwed businesses in the past. I'm sure there's 1,000 legal reasons why this could never happen, but damn, it would be nice. It is called a credit bureau, and as with everything else, it mostly screws over the little people. Don't get me wrong, some people really are deadbeats who should not be lent to, but the judgment of a credit bureau is more or less the star chamber of our era. If anything, you would have been able to sue him for not upholding his end of the contract. Glad he got what he paid for. Legally, yes. Logistically, number client is the kind of person who never faces consequences like that. Has a very good legal team. I hate your client so much. Laws are for poor people. Love stories like this. Duck people who are shit. Duck the world. Don't ask me for shit. Everything you get, you got to work hard, pay for it. Exactly. I just had my first experience with that kind of client, but I was the contractor brought in to complete the work. I show up and compare the provided plans against the existing conditions and immediately throw up a red flag. The next day I meet with the drafter and the customer, and about 10 seconds in I realize that the customer is just trying to not bother paying for a full set of plans. Super awkward, and I just had to sit there while the customer and drafter argued. It was no fun. Awkward. Shit, that's free entertainment. Either you end up losing a potential contract or end up working for a slimeball trying to duck someone over. I hope if he came calling back, he was told you would need to start over as you only had the half drawings. If he needed it rushed, he could pay for a new set at full price plus rush fee in advance. That would be so great. Similar note, I knew a company that held a hard drive hostage for the client to pay up. They basically had $1 million graphics package going on for a huge award show and network upfront package, and the client decided they didn't want to pay for graphics that were made for this because they didn't want to use them in the end due to editing to the tune of like $300K. So after a lot of back and forth, you pay for the work. We don't care what you do with it afterwards. It came down to, hey, all this award ceremony stuff and final renders are on a hard drive in our lobby. The hard drive costs $250K. Guess what they paid? LOL. Had a similar thing happen. Had an IT audit contract cut off 2 months into a 5-month contract. They closed the contract while was at home over the holidays. Then, they looked on the laptop they had me work on and couldn't find the audit info. They called me asking for it, and I said I had it in my possession and would happily give it to whomever they sent to come pick it up. 800 miles away. They could never wrangle someone to come pick it up. Long story short, they paid me a month of the contract to drive there, give them a USB stick, paid for me to stay the night, and drive back home. Something similar happened to this long-time lurker. Client contracted work with signed agreements and email chain. Paid our mandatory upfront deposit. No red flags. But when billed on delivery, as agreed, said he was not paying and even disputed the initial deposit already paid. Luckily we still had access to the hosting account, so I had all the changes rolled back. Cue enraged Skype call. I said you refused to pay for work done. You then disputed a payment you had made by clicking a payment. I was within my rights to take back work done as it was not paid for. In the end, payment service released the disputed amount because of click trail indicating he had agreed to make the payment. We did deliver the work, but only after he paid the second invoice. He was then blacklisted. Any future referrals from him were declined too. Man, I tell you, clients suck lol. As a contractor, I hate having this conversation every time. Hey architect, this design won't work here. Can you come on site? Sorry, client won't pay for field visits. I call client, hey, we need the architect engineer out here to look at this so it can be modified. I'm not paying those any more than I already have. You need to figure it out. Cycle repeats until I create my own drawing of what needs to be done. Ask the engineer what their rate was to client. Relationships are good with my local engineers and staff. Not rude for me to ask and make fun of them. Then I bill the client for my time anyways. Then the architect charges the client to draw my drawing lol. I hear you. I had clients refuse to pay for an accurate survey. The demand I get building permits with some totally out of whack hand-drawn survey from like the 50s with just boundaries. No elevation markers. Survey is item 1 on building permit submission requirements. We want to max out the zoning, so we need super accurate info. I don't care. Figure it out. Not only do I not have a survey reflective of reality to submit, but an accurate survey also makes my life way easier. Our surveys were like 600 to 1200, which saved me 1200 2400 worth of time. It really makes you question reality lol. A couple times I kinda just said duck it. I will submit these plans. Sure. And sure as shit the county passed them for permit, which made my brain explode because I couldn't build off of what I just submitted. I do commercial interior work. Ballpark. What kind of amount of money was owed? Thousands. Tens of thousands. Tens of thousands. It was basically full-time build hours for like 3 people for a couple of months. Yikes. Were you ever able to get any of that money out of them? I am fairly certain our architect ate the cost. Edit typo. This is off topic, but you said you do architecture. I was really interested in that growing up. Do you have any plans or anything you made that are free to look at for anything that I can see? Not OP, but you should check out a guy on Instagram and YouTube called Dana Wang Design. He basically does what OP does and showed the design and construction process of some of his builds. He is very talented. Will do. Thank you. I grew up in an area of LA known as Brentwood. I lived there birth until moving to the Pacific Northwest when I was 35. What I lived was no problems, no responsibilities, no hearing the word number. I grew up with a fine-tuned sense of entitlement, a different set of rules and a zero sense of reality. It's taken time and work to change my ways. Follow rules like the world doesn't owe you a thing. You work for what you need. That client living in his entitled world doesn't grasp the simple fact that you pay for services rendered by others. So simple. He probably intends to pay eventually, because in his mind, it's what's the big deal. You know he's good for the cash. Again, the entitled are a cagey bunch. I am sorry and I hope the situation is behind you. Good riddance. Pity the next professional he hires for whatever they need. A service where professionals or even non-professionals can rate clients like a reverse Angie's List. Am I right? I heard about the famous architect I.M.P. who once got into an argument regarding payment and said my name is I.M.P. not no pay or something similar. He is an amazing architect. One benefit of being a consulting engineer with multifamily buildings is we control schedules which get you occupancy. With difficult clients that are bad at paying bills, we will just withhold the needed approvals. Want to occupy your building? Make sure your accounts are all square. Same here. The absolute worst are single-family residential builders. Single-family homes don't require ME engineering, so fortunately I don't experience that. I love that you took a half day after issuing the PDF. LOL. Company policy for that specific calendar long weekend. It was in the employee handbook and our email sigs we had operating hours upcoming time off in them. I was hoping it was done maliciously to keep with the half themes since it fits so well. Thanks for sharing the story. As an architect, I'll murder that dude for you. What a sleazeball. Never deliver a full set without full payment. Your boss did good. I have worked in contracting for over 30 years and I can say with absolute confidence that the wealthier they are, the harder it is to collect from them. Poor people hand you payment, offer a tip and a beer before you go. The merely rich make you wait 4 months for payment. Wealthy folk ignore requests for payment, make increasingly ridiculous demands and tell you flat out they are not paying in full after you have completed the job. I had another client who I would have to drive 2 hours out of my way every 2 weeks to pick up the paper check for our office. But she couldn't possibly just bring payment to our meetings. She didn't handle funds. She had a family office in the middle of nowhere for such affairs. I did also always get a notice that the check was ready at about 2 p.m. 3 p.m. on a Friday, which always seemed to magically align with our office's paydays. Thankfully I did just bill the 4-hour drive back to her, but still, getting home at 7 p.m. on a Friday doesn't really make you feel like your client values what you do. I was expecting half a drawing, then the rest is just a big empty box labeled multi-purpose space, or the infamous "this space left intentionally blank." Rich people often screw people when they know they can get away with it. I heard a story about a billionaire in my metro area that has screwed several contractors that worked on his palatial mansion estate. Just ignores the bills, thinks he is so rich and powerful that no one will fight him as he will drag out any legal proceedings. Now, many contractors refuse to work on his property at all. That's what mechanics lines are for. Well done for flattening the drawing. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. A tip for those who gets PDFs that have parts whited out like this: there is a free program called Inkscape. You can open import a PDF and then ungroup and mask PDFs depending on how they were made and saved. Do this for my job all the time to convert customer PDFs to DWG formats. It is amazing what people think they have cleverly covered up and how easy it can be to expose. That is why I cited that the PDFs were flattened. I can guarantee you the above would not work. That being said, I too always check PDFs this way with Illustrator. A local planning firm leaves all their stuff editable this way and it can be helpful. I was not familiar with the term. Thank you for clarifying. Sorry, a bunch of people have a bunch of different terms for it. I have heard baking the PDF too. One way to almost guarantee it is to open the PDF in Acrobat and then print it using the print dialog and use the Microsoft PDF printer driver. It tends to remove and flatten anything editable. For someone who's semi-fluent in AutoCAD, you gotta love paper space sometimes. One of Dave Barry's characters says this in Big Trouble, but I have also heard it in the movie How to Be Single, and probably countless other places. The super rich stay that way by hanging on to every penny they can. Glad you gave them their money's worth. Ha, I was definitely thinking it could be a former US president before reading your edit laughing. It's definitely his style. His style is way more common than you would think. I have dealt with many people like this over the years, although thankfully I am never the one directly dealing with the money issues. But I would still hear all about it. You just don't get your money unless you withhold work. And even then, sometimes you end up settling for less money than originally agreed, just to get the ordeal over with. Is it the money that makes people suck, or it's the people who suck who make money? I think it is often, but certainly not always, the people who are born into money. After this many comments, why was it removed? No clue. I thought I followed the rules. Work in same field. It is shocking how often clients try and screw you on fees, especially knowing what they're worth. I hate that for you, but as someone who spent 15 years building new homes, the idea you can't build off a preliminary drawing cracks me up. I have actually given a framer a sketch on the back of a napkin so they could get started when I had a printing delay, but I also drew all of out plans myself. We never used an architect. It is more difficult once you get to the MacMansion size, but using the prelim, extrapolating from that and the full rendered side would not be difficult. For someone like me with many years experience and a regular team of subs who were used to working together, I still hope this jerk at least has some stressful moments over it though, because you did do the work and should get paid for it. Too bad rich people never have consequences. Reminds me of the family friend who got screwed over by a former orange president decades ago. The family friend is working on the irrigation and sprinkler system for a golf course. In the middle of work, the course was bought by none other than the Cheeto with a comb over. Well, when it came time to pay the bill, guess who had every excuse not to pay? So the family friend kept the blueprints plans of where everything was and refused to hand it over until he was paid. A few years later, part of said course was on a cliff and the cliff fell, taking part of the course with it. So the orange buffoon called and asked for the blueprints for the sprinkler systems because he needed to fix the course. Family friend said, "You will get them when I get paid." Well, Cult 45 never got those plans. Sounds like the jet that bought a most famous home in our area. While he was out of town, a renovation worker must have left some equipment on that sparked a conflagration that consumed the entire home and all of the outbuildings, but thankfully none of the trees. In a matter of less than 15 minutes, it took another 45 for the fire to be put out. In its place is a monstrosity that does not fit in the community at all. But this is the guy that will stop his car in the middle of the street blocking traffic to run a 15-minute errand. So, yes, the old oily rag and a match trick. This sounds like our former president. Nothing dumber than a rich cheapskate. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.